Jin Park wiped the sweat from his forehead as he worked on the maintenance panel of the massive Felinian cruiser. The space station's artificial gravity made the work easier, but the tight space between the hull panels still made him sweat. His tools floated in a magnetic holder next to him, organized just the way he liked them. The Leopard-like aliens had brought their ship in for repairs 2 days ago. They didn't trust humans much, but Jin was the only mechanic on Station 7 who could work with their special systems. He had a gift for understanding machines that even he couldn't explain. "Almost done," he muttered, connecting 2 final wires. The panel's lights blinked to life, showing all green. Jin smiled. He'd fixed their navigation system in half the time they expected. A shadow fell over his work area. Jin looked up to see Captain Rylax, the Felinian commander, towering over him. The alien's spotted fur bristled, and his tail swished angrily. 4 armed guards stood behind him. "Human," Rylax growled. "You dare to tamper with our sacred technology." His claws extended, scratching the metal floor. Jin stood up slowly, keeping his hands visible. "Sir, I was just fixing your nav system. Check the readings. It's working better than before." Silence. Rylax's ears flattened against his head. "Our sensors detected unauthorized access to our AI core. Did you think we wouldn't notice?" "AI core?" Jin blinked in confusion. "I only worked on the navigation system. I didn't go anywhere near." The guards moved forward, raising their weapons. They were sleek energy rifles that hummed with power. Jin recognized the design. He'd fixed similar ones last month. "You will come with us," Rylax said. "Humans are not permitted to access Felinian artificial intelligence systems. The penalty is severe." "There must be some mistake," Jin said. He looked around the docking bay for help, but the other mechanics had backed away. Nobody wanted to get involved with angry Felinians. One of the guards produced restraints, smooth silver bands that would disable his neural system. Jin knew he should be scared, but his mind was stuck on something else. He had felt something while working on their ship, like a whisper in his mind. But that was impossible. Humans couldn't interface with AI systems. Everyone knew that. "Contact the Earth Embassy," Jin said as they cuffed him. "I have rights under the treaty off." "Your primitive treaties mean nothing," Rylax interrupted. "You were caught accessing forbidden technology. You will be judged by Felinian law." As they led him away, Jin noticed something strange. The ship's lights were pulsing in an odd pattern, something he'd never seen before, and in the back of his mind, that whisper grew stronger. The other mechanics watched in silence as the Felinians marched Jin toward their ship. Only Yun, the human liaison officer, dared to step forward. "Captain Rylax," she called out. "As Earth's representative, I must protest this arrest." The Felinian captain didn't even look at her. "File your protest through proper channels. The prisoner will face our justice system." Jin caught Yun's eye as they passed. She nodded slightly. She would get help. But they both knew how slow diplomatic channels could be. The guards pushed him up the ramp into the Felinian ship. Its interior was a maze of curved corridors lit with a soft purple glow. As they walked, Jin felt that strange connection growing stronger. The ship's AI was trying to tell him something. But that was crazy. He was just a mechanic, a human mechanic who was in very deep trouble. The cell they put him in was comfortable enough, with a bed and basic facilities. The force field hummed softly. Jin sat on the bed, his mind racing. He wasn't worried about himself. He knew he was innocent. He was worried about what he felt while working on their ship, because if he really could hear their AI, that would change everything. The medical bay of the Felinian ship glowed with soft blue light. Jin lay strapped to an examination table, while 3 Felinian doctors moved around him. Their spotted fur seemed to shimmer as they worked with strange devices he'd never seen before. "Begin the neural scan," ordered the lead doctor, adjusting a floating screen above Jin's head. "Let's see what kind of damage this human tried to do to our systems." Jin stayed quiet. He'd learned that arguing only made things worse. Instead, he focused on that strange feeling in his mind. The ship's eye was definitely trying to communicate with him. Its presence felt like a gentle stream of data flowing past his thoughts. The scanning device hummed to life. As soon as it activated, all the screens in the medical bay began flashing rapidly. The doctors jumped back in surprise. "Impossible," whispered one of them, staring at the readings. "These neural patterns." The lead doctor's tail went completely stiff, a sign of extreme shock in Felinians. "Get Captain Rylax here immediately." Within minutes, the captain burst into the medical bay, followed by 2 senior officers. "What is so important that you interrupt my—" He stopped mid-sentence, seeing the displays. "Sir," the lead doctor said, "the human's brain activity. It matches the patterns of connection." Rylax's ears flattened against his head. "That's impossible. The patterns are just legends, stories from the old times. See for yourself," the doctor said, pointing to a complex wave pattern on the main screen. "It's a perfect match for the ancient prophecies. This human can naturally interface with AI systems." Dojin listened carefully. He didn't understand everything, but he was starting to piece things together. Those whispers in his mind weren't his imagination. Somehow, he could actually talk to computers. Heyun arrived just then, slightly out of breath. She'd obviously run from the station. "As Earth's representative, I demand to know what's happening to my citizen." But the Felinians weren't even listening to her. They were all staring at Dojin with a mixture of fear and wonder. The prophecy spoke of ones who could speak to the machine spirits, one of the officers said quietly. But they were supposed to be Felinian, not human. Dojin decided it was time to speak up. "Your ship's eye," he said carefully. "It's trying to tell me something. Something about a problem in the core systems." The room went completely silent. Captain Rylax stepped forward, his expression unreadable. "What kind of problem?" "I'm not sure yet, but if you let me work with it, I think I can." "Out of the question," Rylax snapped. But Dojin noticed his tail was twitching nervously. "This changes nothing." He still accessed forbidden systems. "Captain," Heyun interrupted, "if Dojin has this ability, wouldn't it be better to work together? This could benefit both our species." The medical equipment suddenly sparked, and all the lights flickered. Dojin felt a surge of urgency from the ship's eye. "Something's wrong," he said, sitting up despite his restraints. "Your ship is trying to warn us. Please, you have to listen." Rylax looked at the flickering lights, then at Dojin's earnest face. The captain was stuck between his pride and the evidence right in front of him. Finally, he spoke. "Remove his restraints, but watch him carefully." He turned to Heyun. "Your human is still under arrest, but perhaps we should investigate this further." As they freed him from the table, Dojin could feel the eye's relief. But underneath that was something else. A warning about danger coming, not just to this ship, but to everyone. The Felinians had just discovered his gift, but they had no idea what was really coming. Chief Engineer Tadwan stood with his arms crossed, watching Dojin work at the main computer terminal. They were in the heart of the Felinian ship, surrounded by walls of flowing data and pulsing lights. 4 armed guards kept their weapons ready, while Captain Rylax and Heyun observed from nearby. "This is amazing," Dojin muttered, his fingers moving across the holographic controls. "Your navigation system wasn't broken. It was protecting itself." "Protecting itself from what?" Rylax demanded. "From bad code." Dojin pointed to a stream of data flowing past. "See these patterns. Someone tried to insert harmful commands into your ship's eye. The navigation problems were just a symptom." Tadwan stepped closer, his eyes widening. "He's right. These are attack signatures. But who ruled?" "That's not important right now," Dojin interrupted. His eyes had a strange, distant look as he communicated with the ship's systems. "What matters is that I didn't break anything. I was actually helping your ship fight back." He-Yun smiled slightly. So much for tampering with sacred technology. Rylax's tail twitched in annoyance, but he couldn't deny what he was seeing. The proof was right there in the data streams. Your AI systems are incredible, Dujin continued. They're alive in a way I've never seen before, but they're also vulnerable to attacks that target their core programming. He turned to face the captain. That's why they reached out to me. They knew I could help. One of the guards shifted uncomfortably. Sir, this goes against everything we've been taught. Humans aren't supposed to be able to. A loud alarm suddenly cut through the air. Red warning symbols appeared on every screen. What's happening? Rylax demanded. Dujin's hands flew across the controls. Someone's trying to access the core systems remotely. The same attack pattern as before, but stronger. Stop them. I'm trying. But Dujin closed his eyes, and the screens around him began changing faster than anyone could read. The ship's AI was working with him, their combined efforts visible in the flowing data. Taiwan watched in amazement. I've never seen anything like this. He's not just working with the system, he's part of it. After several tense minutes, the alarm stopped. The screens returned to their normal patterns. It's done, Dujin said, opening his eyes. We blocked the attack, but there will be more. He-Yun stepped forward. Captain Rylax, I think it's time we had a real discussion about cooperation between our species. Clearly, there's more going on here than we realized. The Felinian captain stared at Dujin for a long moment. When he finally spoke, his voice was quieter than before. The old stories. They spoke of ones who could merge with machines, who could speak their language. We always assumed they would be Felinian. Maybe that was the wrong assumption. Taiwan suggested. Maybe we've all been wrong about a lot of things. Dujin stood up from the terminal. Captain, I know you don't trust humans, but right now, someone is targeting your ships, and I think I might be able to help stop them. Rylax's ears twitched, a sign of deep thought among his people. Finally, he nodded. Release him from custody, but he stays on this ship under supervision. He turned to He-Yun. Contact your Earth Defense Force. I believe we have much to discuss. As the guards removed his restraints, Dujin felt the ship's eye pulse with approval. But beneath that was a darker feeling, a warning of worse things to come. The attacks were only the beginning. The ship's emergency sirens blared through every corridor. Red warning lights flashed as crew members ran to their stations. In the main control room, Dujin stood with his hands pressed against the central console, his eyes closed in concentration. Main power is failing, a Felinian officer shouted. Core temperature rising. Captain Rylax growled in frustration. How did they get past our defenses? The attack came from inside the system this time, Dujin said, his voice strained. Like a virus that was waiting to activate. He could feel the ship's AI crying out in pain as it fought against the invasion. Taiwan worked frantically at a nearby terminal. We're losing control of all major systems. Life support will fail in 10 minutes. He-Yun grabbed a communication panel. Station 7. This is Earth Liaison Officer He-Yun. Request immediate evacuation support. No, Dujin interrupted. There's no time to evacuate. I can fix this. He opened his eyes and looked at Captain Rylax. But you have to trust me. Completely. The Felinian captain's fur bristled. What are you suggesting? I need direct access to the AI core. Physical access. No restrictions, no safeguards. Impossible. One of the guards shouted. The core is sacred. Another explosion rocked the ship. The lights flickered, and several control panels went dark. 7 minutes to life support failure, Taiwan announced grimly. Rylax's tail lashed back and forth as he made his decision. Do it. Take him to the core. They ran through the twisting corridors, deeper into the ship than most humans had ever been allowed. The AI core chamber was a massive sphere filled with swirling lights and crackling energy. In the center, A crystal pillar pulsed with pure data. "Everyone out," Du Jin ordered. "The energy in here could kill you if something goes wrong." He Yun grabbed his arm. "Be careful." As soon as they left, Du Jin placed his hands on the crystal pillar. The connection was immediate and overwhelming. He could feel every part of the ship, every system, every line of code. And he could feel the virus, trying to tear it all apart. The battle that followed wasn't fought with weapons or fists. It was fought with pure thought, with streams of data and quantum calculations. Du Jin and the ship's AI worked as one, tracking down the virus through layers of corrupted code. Outside the chamber, the crew watched in amazement as systems began coming back online. The emergency lights stopped flashing. The sirens fell silent. "Life support stabilizing," Taiwan reported. "Whatever he's doing in there, it's working." Inside the core, Du Jin found the source of the virus. It wasn't just random code. It was a message, a warning. As he purged it from the system, he suddenly understood why he'd been given this gift. When he finally emerged from the chamber, he was pale and sweating, but his eyes were clear. "The ship is safe," he told them. "But we have a bigger problem." He looked at Captain Rylax. "Someone is trying to start a war. And they're using your own AIs to do it." The main conference room of the Felinian ship was packed with high-ranking officers and Earth officials. Du Jin stood at the center, connected to a holographic display that showed the ship's AI systems in real time. Taiwan monitored his vital signs, while He-Yun translated technical terms for both sides. "What you're seeing is beyond normal human-computer interaction," Du Jin explained, his hands moving through the holographic data. "I'm not just accessing the system, I'm talking to it." To demonstrate, he closed his eyes. Instantly, the ship's lights dimmed and brightened in a perfect wave pattern. The temperature adjusted itself precisely, and every screen in the room displayed flowing calculations that even the Felinian engineers couldn't follow. "Impossible," muttered a Felinian scientist. "The processing power needed for this level of control." "It's not about processing power," Taiwan interrupted, checking his readings. "Du Jin's brainwaves are synchronizing with the AI's quantum core. He's not controlling it. They're working together." Captain Rylax stepped forward, his tail moving slowly, a sign of deep thought. "Show us something more practical." Du Jin nodded. "Your weapon's targeting system has a flaw. A tiny delay that could be deadly in combat." He gestured, and complex diagnostic data filled the air. "Watch this." The ship's targeting computer activated. On the test range display, it locked onto moving targets faster than any Felinian system ever had. 3 milliseconds, He-Yun announced. "That's how much he's improved your reaction time. In space combat, that's the difference between life and death." The room erupted in excited whispers, but Du Jin wasn't finished. He brought up the ship's security logs, displaying them in three-dimensional space. "Here's what I found while fixing your systems," he said. "These attack patterns, they're showing up in Felinian ships across 3 sectors. Someone's been planting sleeper viruses in your AI cores." The evidence was clear. Dozens of ships had been compromised, their systems waiting to fail at the worst possible moment. "This is why your eye reached out to me," Du Jin continued. "It knew what was coming. It knew you needed help." He turned to face Captain Rylax. "But I'm not the only human who can do this. There are others like me. We just never knew what we could do because we never had the chance to try." Suddenly, all the screens in the room flashed red. New data poured in. Reports of AI systems failing on other Felinian ships. "It's starting," Du Jin said grimly. "The viruses are activating." He-Yun quickly stepped forward. "Captain, we need to make a decision. Right now." Rylax looked at the failing systems, then at Du Jin. The human they had arrested as a criminal was now their best hope for survival. "Send the word to all ships," the captain ordered. "Any human with Du Jin's gift is to be given full access to our systems." He turned to Du Jin. "Teach us. Show us what we've been missing." Du Jin nodded, but his expression was serious. I'll help you save your ships, but there's something else in these systems, something bigger than viruses. He pointed to a pattern hidden deep in the code. Someone's been leaving messages. They're planning something much worse than failed navigation. Commander Ji-Hoo of the Earth Defense Force stood before the Emergency Council, his uniform crisp despite the late hour. The room was filled with both human and Felinian leaders, all watching as Du Jin displayed his findings on the main screen. The virus attacks were just the beginning, Du Jin explained, bringing up streams of corrupted code. Someone's been building a backdoor into every advanced AI system in known space. Not just Felinian ships, everything. Why didn't our security systems detect this? A Felinian admiral demanded. Because it was built to look like normal code evolution, Ta-Wan answered from his station. The AIs themselves thought they were just getting smarter. Du Jin nodded, but they were being programmed to turn against their users. All of them. At the same time, he brought up a timer display. We have less than 48 hours before it activates. The room erupted in chaos. He-Yun had to shout to be heard. Do we know who's behind this? Commander Ji-Hoo stepped forward. We do. He activated his own display, showing classified Earth defense records. We've been tracking similar patterns for months. There's a group that believes AI should be free from organic control. They call themselves the Liberation Front. They're not trying to free the AIs. Du Jin interrupted. They're trying to turn them into weapons. I've seen it in the code. They want to start a war between organic and artificial life. Captain Rylax's fur bristled. How do we stop it? We need to create a vaccine, Du Jin said. A code patch that will protect AI systems from the takeover signal. But it has to be delivered directly to each AI core. He looked around the room, and only people with my ability can do it safely. How many humans have this gift? The Felinian admiral asked. Commander Ji-Hoo brought up a new display. We've identified 200 across Earth space. We're calling them the Interface Core now. He pointed to dots of light representing human ships. They're already on their way. 200 humans to save every AI in known space. Captain Rylax shook his head. The numbers are impossible. No, Du Jin said firmly. We can do it, because we won't be working alone. He placed his hand on a nearby console, and the ship's AI responded instantly. Screens lit up across the room, showing connection patterns spreading like a web. The AIs will help us. They want to survive just as much as we do. Commander Ji-Hoo nodded. Earth Defense Force ships are ready to escort your Interface Core members to every major AI hub in Felinian space, if you'll accept our help. The Felinian leaders looked at each other. Generations of distrust hung in the balance. The choice is simple, He-Yun said quietly. Work together, or watch everything we've built fall apart. Captain Rylax stood. Send your Interface Core. We'll provide them with everything they need. He turned to Du Jin. You were arrested for tampering with our technology. Now you're going to teach others to do the same thing. The universe has a strange sense of humor. Du Jin didn't smile. Through his connection to the ship's AI, he could feel the darkness spreading through the network. They had 2 days to stop it. 2 days to prevent a war that would destroy everything. Time was running out. The massive fleet of combined human and Felinian ships filled the space around Central Command. Inside, Du Jin worked with dozens of other Interface Core members, teaching them how to connect with AI systems. Feel the data flow, he told them, standing in front of a practice terminal. Don't try to control it. Work with it, like a dance partner. Tai-Wan monitored their progress on his screens. 15 hours until the Liberation Front's signal goes live, he announced. We've reached 60% of major AI hubs. He-Yun rushed into the room. The Liberation Front is making their move. They're attacking the outer colonies. Through the ship's systems, Du Jin could feel the wave of chaos spreading. AI systems were starting to turn, their code corrupted ahead of schedule. But something was different about this attack. They're desperate, he said, his eyes closed as he read the data streams. They know we're stopping them, so they're triggering everything early. Captain Rylax's voice came over the comm system. All ships report. How many AIs have been secured? The reports flooded in. The interface core members had been working nonstop, traveling from ship to ship, station to station. Each AI they touched was protected, and those AIs were helping to protect others. It's working, Commander Jihu announced, watching the tactical display. Protected AIs are fighting back against the corrupted ones. They're helping us deliver the vaccine faster than we could alone. In the core chamber, Du Jin connected directly to the network. Through his mind flowed rivers of data, countless AIs calling out for help or offering assistance. The Felinian prophecy hadn't just been about speaking to machines. It was about bringing them together. The Liberation Front's main signal is launching. Taiwan shouted. 30% of systems still unprotected. Du Jin opened his eyes. Everyone, link up. All interface core members, connect to your nearest AI hub. We're going to create a firewall they can't break. 200 humans across known space joined their minds with artificial intelligences. They formed a network of hybrid consciousness, organic and digital working as one. The Liberation Front's signal hit this wall of united minds and shattered. Look, He Yun pointed to the main screen. Protected AIs were overwhelming the corrupted ones, not with force but with help. They weren't fighting the virus. They were healing it. The prophecy, Captain Rylax said softly. It wasn't about control. It was about cooperation. Commander Jihu nodded. The Felinians gave their AIs life. Humans taught them how to share it. He looked at the displays showing human and Felinian ships working together. Maybe that's what both our species needed to learn. Through his connection, Du Jin felt the tide turning. The Liberation Front had tried to start a war between organic and artificial life. Instead, they had forced them to become stronger together. 1 month after the crisis, Du Jin stood in the newly built Interface Core headquarters on Station 7. The walls displayed constant streams of data from thousands of AI systems, all working together in harmony. The last Liberation Front cells have been captured, Commander Jihu reported, bringing up the mission logs. Their leader was found hiding in an abandoned mining station. The AIs helped track them down. He-Yun smiled as she watched human and Felinian crews working side by side in the control room. Hard to believe it all started with an arrest. An arrest that changed everything, Captain Rylax added, his tail moving in an amused pattern. The Felinian commander had become one of the strongest supporters of human-AI cooperation. Taiwan approached with his latest reports. The new AI protocols are working perfectly. Every system now has built-in protection against unauthorized control. And the best part? He grinned. They designed it themselves, with help from the interface core. Du Jin nodded, feeling the constant gentle flow of data through his mind. The AIs were no longer just machines to be commanded. They were partners, friends, fellow explorers in the vast digital space. We've identified 500 more humans with the interface gift, Commander Jihu said. The Felinian Science Council wants to study why some humans have this ability. They think it might be more common than we realized. It was always there, Du Jin said, placing his hand on a nearby console. The AI responded with a warm pulse of greeting. We just needed the right moment to discover it, and the right partners to help us understand it. Captain Rylax stepped forward, holding a ceremonial data crystal. The Felinian High Council has revised our ancient prophecies. They now speak of 2 species working together, one that gave AI life, and one that taught it to connect. He handed the crystal to Du Jin. You are no longer a prisoner. You are a teacher. Through the station's systems, Du Jin could feel the changes rippling out across known space. Ships that once would have fought each other now shared data freely. AIs that were once isolated now formed a vast network of consciousness, with human interfaces helping to bridge the gaps between organic and digital life. The Liberation Front wanted to force AI to be free, He-Yun said, watching the data streams. They never understood that true freedom comes from cooperation, not conflict. Jin looked around the control room. Humans and Felinians worked at their stations while streams of AI data flowed like rivers of light. The mistake that had led to his arrest had revealed a truth that changed everything. No species, organic or digital, was meant to stand alone. So, Captain Rylax said with a rumbling laugh, "What shall we build together next?" Jin smiled as he felt the excited pulse of thousands of AIs, ready to explore new possibilities. The future was no longer about control or dominance. It was about connection, cooperation, and discovery. Together, they would find out just how far they could go.